So coming up right now, I hope everybody's ready. We've got Rabie, Zahri, and Zaheer Ali from Positon.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having us. My name is Rabie Zahri. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Positon.ai. My background is in tech and business. I have 20 years of experience in including executive roles, and my last executive role was head of M&A at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise for AI, quantum, and HPC business.
Hi there, folks. My name's Zaheer Ali. So call me Z, please. I'm an experimental physicist by training. Was playing around with things called genetic algorithms back in the early 2000s, way back before a lot of this stuff was in the general public. Recently, I left NASA, where I was working on some very exciting AI applications, and was with Rabie at HPE facing the supercomputer strategy markets. So let's jump right in.
Sure. So we'd like to start with understanding the AI options. So this is sort of for startups and business applications within enterprise. So we wanted to take a step back and look at what are your AI options if you want to integrate AI into your business applications. So looking at your first option of building and training AI from scratch. I kind of equate this to raising a child from all the way through sending them through college and all the expenses. We're talking about textbooks and feeding them and raising them to be good or bad actors in society. So think of all that cost, right? So that's basically the building and training. Expensive, resource intensive, bespoke though to your applications and business needs. And there's also fine tuning. Fine tuning is kind of akin to having a toy that's kind of like your toy train, and adding maybe that works great and you're loving it, but you want to add, maybe you want the train to speak now and talk to you. So that would be something that you can fine tune. You take a pre-trained model and fine-tune it to do so. Off the shelf would be something, you're just Toys R Us. You go and pick up a toy and you play with it, and it's low cost, low to moderate. It's quick and easy. That's one of the benefits. And there's the integration part, right? And maybe you want to talk to that.
So this is the fun part, right? Is that this is the hybrid in many ways between the off-the-shelf and the other opportunities. First of all, thinking about how you do it, whether it's particularly leveraging the APIs and other tools that are becoming available through the semi-commoditized. I say semi-commoditized because we see we're in that interesting juncture. And so it becomes very low cost to get going. And it's very manageable as a startup, an entrepreneur jumping in, wanting to do interesting things. And just to be clear, right, we are an AI-driven, AI-powered startup. But our use case at the end is about delivering customer value in very specific ways. And keeping that in mind, as a couple of the earlier talks have mentioned, drives us to the integrate AI use. Because as opposed to just running something off the shelf and doing some inference, right, we need to be interactive with the AI in a more intelligent way, but we also don't want to go build and train, and fine-tuning has its own risks. So it can become very seamless and integrate with lower resources required. And I think that jumps us into the next slide about understanding what type of talent you need. And here you have a pair of one pyramid you're climbing up, and the other pyramid you're climbing down. I think you want to jump in on the dev team stuff.
It's pretty self-explanatory in the sense of this is from an AI talent perspective. This is the sort of the needs that match the what phase you're in terms of AI. You got deep expertise in AI, then you have to build and train, and sometimes you go into inference depending on what part of AI journey you're in, from the data center all the way to the far edge. There's training that happens in the data center, and then you move into inference, and also there's training that happens at the edge, and then you move into that. So there's a level of expertise that's needed in that plane. But as you go down, and this is kind of what we want to focus on, is the OTS is off the shelf or integrating into your business application. You really don't need that much expertise in AI. There's a lot of training that must happen, maybe in terms of prompt engineering. There's frameworks for that. There's folks that would love to, pick up that knowledge. But if you're a software engineer, you can pick that up pretty seamlessly and run with it. And this is sort of what we're seeing is, what we're advocate is, you start, in building blocks, right? In terms of how you want to experiment with AI, right? So, and we're kind of following on all the conversations and keynotes that happened today. There's a theme here about be methodical, be careful, test, and which is kind of lovely to hear, So next one. So this is, I want to bring this up. So this is kind of looking at use cases 360, meaning that you're looking at the good, the bad, the strategy behind it. You got to be bold and go after the use cases, but there's a lot of risk as well, right? So there's, the couple of slides here, or a couple of pictures that we have highlighted in red. Maybe you want to talk about the near.
Yeah, this one's fun because I actually know one of the people who's very much in the leadership. So some news articles recently said the Air Force said an AI drone killed its human operator during a simulation. So it didn't actually fire a missile at the trailer from where the drone was controlled, but in the simulation it did because the AI supposedly felt that the operator was hindering it achieving its stated mission. Now, the Air Force, there's a lot of controversy because Cinco Hamilton, who is an ex-pilot, he's a friend of mine, he's leading a lot of this work, and he said, no, that's not what it really did. But it brings up the debate, right? How are we really putting the rails on these systems, and are we truly thinking about them in 360? All the way back to Asimov's 3 laws of AI. I want to jump into the counterexample, in my opinion, to that next to it, the Advanced Air Mobility and Urban Air Traffic Management, which is a program that FAA handed to NASA, kind of because FAA didn't know how to handle it. It was beyond their scope, so they had to go to my tribe, the eggheads at NASA. And the goal of that is to figure out, when you have 50,000 drones in the sky above San Francisco and 100,000 autonomous vehicles plus another 200,000 robots on the streets of San Francisco, how do you manage all of that? Humans aren't going to be able to do it. We know, right? So that's urban traffic management. And so when you talk about how to look at something 360, that is a problem you have to examine from every other angle. But there's other examples in the business world. Rabie, I think maybe take the Zillow one.
Yeah. I think it's. I think we focus more about experimentation. So an example is in our platform, we have about 5 use cases that we handle for M&A workflow, but we created a kind of a sandbox where our customers can actually test and experiment and do things with, in collaboration with us throughout the evaluation license. So that, going through that whole process with the customer and growing with them, it kind of gives us a little bit of a cover in terms of understanding and protecting the customer data, protecting their business continuity and what have you. So we talk about experiment, like as a rule for transition into deploying at a GA or a general availability. Which brings us to protecting the customer, right? So what happens at Burning Man? I'll keep it to you guys. So it's a personal answer to that, but in essence, what we advocate is protecting the customer data and business continuity, monitoring AI, the input-output, maintaining, make sure that the proper SLAs are in place, making sure that you're also experimenting the entire time, not only with the AI itself and prompt engineering, but also the type of data that goes in and the type of responses that you're getting back. So I think I couldn't emphasize more how important it is to experiment, test, and get it to a point where customer can say, okay, this is something that we can now take to production. Okay. Yeah, so just a quick, this kind of the two things. So just a quick overview here. I think this is packaging to scale is what we kept talking about. Is starting small, experimenting, dependent on where you are in the AI journey, how you want to integrate into your business application. There's a cost to it that you want to also experiment with. There's the DevOps for machine learning, for instance, that you would like to also tie to sales or scale, right? So you want to tie it to revenue, and you don't want to forget about that, right? So as you grow, you're going to find out more. So there's a lot of that business model that you will figure out with the customer as well as you grow.
Yeah, if I could. And just to add to that, one thing is we don't really know the cost of AI right now. I know that sounds like a very strange statement, right? We know a lot of costs, but we don't fundamentally understand the commoditized cost of inference or things. Whoops, we lost our presentation. Let's get that back. But fundamentally, when you think about that scale, right? Right now, we know what how much we get charged per so many thousand tokens through, for example, Azure OpenAI, right? But what is that really going to cost moving forward? How are they going to adjust that? Their pricing is right now in very much subsidized mode. So as you build, you don't want to build around something that as pricing shifts, it could go up, it could go down, that you're left in an untenable position. You have to really think about this moving forward. And that's why we have the tagline down there, always tie ML ops as a cost of sale and scale to revenue, right? This is where, Rabie and I are both business guys as well as tech guys. This is where that business mindset really has to come in. And you really, particularly as a founder, entrepreneur, really have to drive that. Some other important considerations.
Yeah, I mean, these are just other important considerations you got to take. Other folks mentioned it. I think they're highly important. We just didn't get a chance to dive into them. But user experience is highly important. You want to open up. We have about 3 minutes, so I want to. This is kind of self-explanatory there. So we want to maybe move to the next slide. As the key takeaway, if anything, we'd leave you guys with is basically know what part of the AI journey. Make sure you experiment, start small, and then grow with that. And then be crystal clear on your business goals. I think other folks mentioned that as well, and tie the use cases, look at it 360, and experiment, like we mentioned, experiment. And then be fierce protector of your customer data. This is, you're in it together. It's a journey that you'll have to take with the customer. Also, it's a journey within an enterprise. If you're, product line manager of sort that you're trying to automate or introduce AI into the business. So with that, we'll take some more questions or some questions.
We have one.
Okay, questions. Running the mic.
Thank you very much. Thank you a lot for the presentation. I have a question about the user experience. How do you see the user experience, especially when it combines different AI tools? How do you see that?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So we built our platform with user experience and user interface in mind first. So the idea is that, and we also packaged it into how we want to protect customer data, what inputs can we look at, and then what output can we actually control from the back and forth. So that's important. I think there's change management that happens just with anything when you move from one skill set to another or using something new, a new platform. There's user experience helps with that as well. So if it's intuitive, something that folks can look at without explanation, and then they can jump right in and use it, that's powerful.
Other questions?
So I really like the sale and scale thing. That was really smart. I'll probably take that. I know.
I'll give it to you.
Well, just send us a buck.
Right. Yeah, right. There you go. The question though is with looking at experimentation and knowing where AI is going, you mentioned like monitoring of AI and understanding like, kind of like capabilities and audit controls of that. Experimentation-wise, future-wise, how do you monitor something that's smarter than us?
That's an interesting statement to unpack. So, there was already discussion of the anthropic model using, a constitutional, right? You can imagine agents trained on different data sets and different rules, ideas that sit on top of and in between your user and the AI. Rabie really pioneered how we were thinking about how we would sit between the user experience of our users and the back-end AI. Maybe thought on.
Something that we didn't mention is making sure that humans are in the decision making at all times. That's why we showed that, one slide with the drone and the submarine, and also Zillow. The story about Zillow, and you just can't let you want the human in there, but you want to empower the human to have a user experience within your platform that allows them to interact with that.
We run ahead a lot in this community, but it's really important to think of, and I think the general wider commercial application of AI community can learn a lot from the government and defense, aerospace systems, where there's a concept of decision support and human in the loop until you achieve a certain level of confidence interval, and that's paired with a certain low level of consequence for a wrong answer, right? Those have to match. And where you've seen disasters, like the Zillow example, was where they did not match an automation with the possible consequence. They totally didn't understand what the end consequence is. So I think a lot of digital twinning and that experimentation mentality. One thing that we talk a lot about is experiment with intent, not just experiment with design, but you have to have intent behind your experiment and think about what that roadmap is.